done using the hand raise feature. You can raise your hand at any time and we will recognize you as we get to the public participation portion of the agenda for each case. Assistant Director Kathy Arnett will be moderating the Zoom meeting and will be asked to provide names of those individuals that wish to speak again as hands are raised. I would like to call the meeting of the City of Wildwood's Board of Adjustment to order. The board members present today are Deborah Coleman, board member, Arnie Sprunger, board member, Bob Morris, board member, Jared Frank, vice chair, and myself, Mary Giles, chair. The Department of Planning staff present is Joe Vunich, Director of Planning, and Kathy Arnett, Assistant Director. City Attorney Sam Beffa and Court Reporter Courtney Tallman are also present. First, I offer into the record the affidavit of publication pertaining to today's meeting, January 21st, 2021, and take official notice of the zoning ordinance of City of Wildwood, including Chapter 400, Article 2, authorizing and establishing the Board of Adjustment's powers and duties. Let me explain the hearing procedure. Please be aware the information I'm about to describe is also provided in the Board of Adjustment Public Hearing Procedure handout, which was available online prior and up to tonight's meeting. This is an informal type of hearing. However, the meeting's proceedings will be recorded by a reporter for future transcription if needed. The petitions are called in the order listed on the agenda. As the petition is called, I will ask a Department of Planning staff member to read each request into the record. Thereafter, the Department of Planning will have opening remarks and a brief slide presentation. Then the petitioner or their representative will be asked to state their name and address, be sworn in by the court reporter, and make a brief presentation to the board explaining the nature of the requested variance and the hardship necessitating it. The board will only consider the nature and condition of the property and whether these factors mandate a variance in order to allow for its full utilization. Board members may ask questions to clarify the facts of the petitioner's presentation. When the board is satisfied with the material presented by the petitioner, the chair will then ask if there's anyone present online who would like to speak in favor or opposition to the request. Each speaker will be asked to provide their name and address, be sworn in, and then state their comments. Procedurally, the petitioner may request a continuance at any time during the hearing prior to a call for the vote in order to bring in additional documentation or information. The board may also request a continuance to gather additional information or for a further visit to the site. After the conclusion of input from all interested parties, the board will ask a staff person to provide the Department of Planning's report on this matter, if requested by any member of the board, the petitioner, or any individual that is participating online. Additionally, any other information not presented in the previous testimony but pertinent to the request will be noted at this time. Once all speakers have been heard, the chair will call for a motion to grant or deny with or without conditions. Then the board will vote. At that time, the discussion relating to the petition is concluded and no further input will be permitted. The board will generally make a decision today. 4 members of the board must vote in favor of the petition for it to be approved. If a variance is approved, the petitioner has 6 months to obtain the necessary permits or establish the use, or it will expire. If the board's decision is unfavorable, the petitioner has the right of appeal to the St. Louis County Circuit Court. This appeal must be done within 30 days of the decision. Kathy, are there any questions at this time?
No, ma'am.
Hearing no questions at this time, the board will proceed. May the first request be read into the record, which will be followed by initial comments by the Department of Planning and a brief slide presentation.
Madam Chair, thank you. Madam Chair and members of the board, the first case tonight is BA 1-21, Stephanie Valley, 16308 Cherry Hills Meadows Court, Wildwood, Missouri, 63040, care of Corey Gursky Design Group, LLC, 4 Seclusion Woods, Festus, Missouri, 63028. Request an exception to the minimum yard requirements general for the purpose of constructing an in-ground swimming pool with associated concrete decking and retaining wall, all of which are accessory to the established principal use, i.e. existing single-family dwelling circa 1994, upon the property located at 16308 Cherry Hills Meadows Court, St. Louis County locator number 24V621101, lot 101-101, the Meadows at Cherry Hills subdivision. If granted, this variance would thereby authorize a rear yard setback distance of 12 feet in lieu of 15-foot standard. This request is contrary to the requirements of Chapter 415.140 R3 10,000 square foot resident district regulations of the City of Wildwood zoning ordinance and Section 2, parenthetical 2, parenthetical E, St. Louis County Planned Environment Unit, PEU, ordinance number 16676. This property is located in Ward 8. Madam Chair and members of the board, before the proceedings begin, the Department of Planning would like to introduce into tonight's record the following items. Chapter 400, Article 2 of the City of Wildwood Municipal Code, the Board of Adjustment. Chapter 415 of the same City of Wildwood Municipal Code, the zoning ordinance. The file that has been developed and maintained by the Department of Planning regarding this particular request, and all contents contained therein, including the department's recommendation report. And then finally, any testimony, evidence, plats, maps, or other items introduced as evidence at tonight's hearing. Thank you. And Madam Chair, with your permission, Ms. Arnett will share her screen and we'll begin the slide presentation.
Please, thank you.
Thank you. The first slide, as we do each time, shows where the property is located generally within the city. So there's a lot of blue going on, but the property is this lighter blue here. You'll see it's along Old Manchester Road near Taylor at the roundabout. And so for point of reference, this is City Hall up here, and it's just south of the Deerberg Shopping Center and west of Schnucks. This is a closer up aerial of the property itself. It is one lot in a 5-lot cul-de-sac known as Cherry Hills Meadows Court, which is off of Cherry Hills Meadows Drive, which is the main street within the subdivision. Property is wedge shape, which is typical of cul-de-sac lots. You can see that the rear yard is already fenced. And this slide shows the topographic lines overlaid. The lot is obviously very flat. So there's only about 4 foot of fall from the street to the back corner. Now we have some photographs of the site itself. The petitioner's home is the red brick to the right. Again, this is the 5-lot cul-de-sac, Cherry Hills Meadows Court. This is the subject site itself. This is the back of the subject site. The pool, which is the subject of the request, is shown at just off the back of the existing deck space. This is a view looking kind of east-northeast across the back property, backyard. The deck is now on the left that is shown to be retained. There is one tree currently in the backyard, centrally located here, that is shown on the plans as to be relocated. This is the same view of the backyard, just from the other side. We're now looking in a west-southwest direction. Again, the existing deck and the tree that is to be relocated. You can see the fence line. Every lot in this vicinity is fenced. You can see as we move to the next slide how the angles of the backyard change as it comes in. This is kind of central in the yard as it angles back to the side yards. And then this is, I'm standing in petitioner's side yard. This is their fence here in the foreground. That's their trampoline, just to show you the adjacent properties to the rear. This is the proposed plans that were submitted. So just to highlight the areas that need to be seen the most. This light pink color that's square, it's rectangle, that's the proposed retaining wall. Because the retaining wall is less than 6 feet in height, it is allowed in the setbacks. So that does not need any discussion on the variance request. The pool as shown in blue, and you can see the existing wood deck here in purple. The pool, and then it's just got the concrete decking around it, which is outlined in blue. So the 2 locations that we'll be discussing as part of the variance request are the orange triangles. Those are the only portions that project into the rear yard setback area. And again, as we saw how the fence angles, you can see that the rear setback line mirrors that and angles, causing those 2 corners of the concrete patio to extend into the rear yard setback. Joe or myself be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Ms. Arnett. Are there any questions for Ms. Arnett right now? All right.
Thank you.
Seeing none, can the petitioner please state your name, address, in relation to the party, and then be sworn in by the court reporter?
Yes, so good evening, Madam Chair. My name is Corey Jarosky, and I am the draftsman that worked on this project for the Galleys. The address is 16308 Cherry Hills, Meadow Court, Wildwood.
And can you go ahead and be sworn in by the court reporter?
Yes,
Thanks.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
All right, can you please explain the nature of the request and the hardship or practical difficulty necessitating the variance as it relates to the character of the property?
So ultimately, Stephanie and Nate were set on the pool size. And for that reason is because of Nate's current knee injury. He ultimately wanted to use it as a hydrotherapy pool. And they also considered, his kids and just the size overall. And then the reason why the pool is at the distance, you see the 5 foot of deck in between the retaining wall, or not, the existing wood deck and the edge of the pool. We wanted to keep that space a little open, so if they did have kids over or anyone was passing through, they're not going to fall in. So we did want to keep that at 5 foot, and we also wanted to keep it away from the posts of the existing wood deck as much as possible to withstand the integrity of them.
All right. Do any board members have any questions
Yeah,
for Mr.
Mary,
Kowalski? Sure, go
Um,
ahead, Mr. Morris.
will you require another fence around that pool, inside that other fence?
Negative. We will not need another fence.
Won't need, okay.
Nope.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Gorowski? All right. Are there any speakers in the audience who want to speak in favor of or opposition to the request?
See no indication, and I believe both are here for other requests on the agenda.
Okay.
Thank you.
At this time, I'm offering the opportunity to hear an oral presentation of the department's report. Seeing no request for that, does the Department of Planning have any final comments?
Yes, ma'am. We would just simply like to say that we are in support of the variance as requested. I think the one important thing to note is none of the pool itself is actually extending into the rear yard. It is just the flat work that is extending into the rear yard. And the reason it needs the variance is it's considered part of the structure because it's structurally essential for the pool itself and a requirement of the building code. But flat work can be in the setback area under other circumstances if it would not be associated with the pool. So the encroachment we feel is minimal. It's about 10 square feet on the one side and about 24 on the other. And so the department is supporting the request as petitioned. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Arnett. Does anyone on the board have any final comments? Seeing none, at this time, I'd like to close the proceeding before a vote and call for a vote for a motion to approve, deny, or approve with conditions.
I'd like to motion to approve the variance, please.
We have a motion to approve the variance as requested by Mr. Frank. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Coleman. We have a second from Ms. Coleman. Ms. Coleman, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Frank, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Morris, how do you vote?
Yes,
And Mr. Sprunger, how do you vote?
Approve.
I also vote yes. Your variance request has been approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, are we ready for the next petition?
Yes,
Ms. Arnett, can I proceed?
please do, sir. Thank you.
And my apologies to the petitioner. I'll do my best. The next case is BA 2-21 Preven Vadam, 119 Sweet Cherry Way, Wildwood, Missouri 63040. Request an exception to the minimum yard requirements general for the purpose of maintaining a sun deck on an existing single-family dwelling circa 2016, which is located upon the property addressed as 119 Sweet Cherry Way, St. Louis County locator number 24V 640681, Lot 6A of the Manors at the Meadows at Cherry Hills subdivision. If granted, this variance would authorize a front yard setback distance of 16 feet in lieu of the required 20-foot standard. The request is contrary to the requirements of Chapter 415, 150, R4, 7,500 square foot resident district, and Planned Residential Development Overlay District Ordinance number 2060, which was approved by the City of Wildwood on November 10th, 2014. This particular property is located in Ward 8. And Madam Chair, before proceeding forward, the department would like to introduce into the record the following items. Chapter 400, Article 2 of the City of Wildwood Municipal Code, the Board of Adjustment. Chapter 415 of the same City of Wildwood Municipal Code, the zoning ordinance. The file that has been developed and maintained by the Department of Planning regarding this particular request, and all contents contained therein, including the department's recommendation report on the matter. And then finally, any testimony, plats, maps, or other items that are offered as evidence at tonight's hearing. And again, Madam Chair, with your permission, Ms. Arnett has a slide presentation she can show at this time. Thank you.
Please and thank you.
Thank you. This request is actually a new addition to the subdivision on the request we just heard. So the subdivision is called the Manors at the Meadows of Cherry Hills, but the frontage is on Cherry Hills Meadows Drive, which is also how access was provided to our first petitioner. So as you can see on this first slide, Deerberg's is just to the north, and the kind of first roundabout in the city at Taylor Road, Manchester, is to give you some main points. This is a close-up of the site itself, and many of these slides are going to look very familiar. As you all will recall that last month we heard a variance request next door on 115 Sweet Cherry Way. This final aerial slide shows the topographic layout of the petitioner's property, which is completely flat. It maybe has 4 feet of fall front to back. This is Cherry Hills Meadows Drive, the main street on the front of the property. This home is part of the neo-traditional units within the subdivision, so they are pushed to the front and then accessed by a rear alley. Petitioner's home is just off to the right of the slide where this tree is located. Now we're just looking in the other direction on Cherry Hills Meadows Drive and the petitioner's home is now on the left. You'll note it has a for sale sign in front of it, which I'll tell you all a little story here when we get to the end of the slides, and you'll see why that for sale sign matters. This is the subject site itself from Cherry Hills Meadows Drive. These are the surrounding homes on either side, north and south, or left and right facing the home. This ranch here on the left part of the slide was the petitioner last month. These are the homes directly across the street. And this is Sweet Cherry Way, the alley that provides access to the rear of this home and the others on the street. But because it is a platted right-of-way, it is considered a front yard for setback purposes. This is Sweet Cherry Way now looking to the south, and the petitioner's property is the one on the right. It is this deck that we're going to discuss with this landing here. This is the petitioner's property. Again, with the deck, the landing part is what we'll discuss that is encroaching. Where the encroachment occurs is towards Sweet Cherry Way, and so across the street from the petitioner's property is a little parking lot with 5 spaces for the residents and guests in that area, since there's no on-street parking. These 2 homes, the one on the right is the petitioner's. I just wanted to show that the existing neighbor also has a deck. They do not have steps down, so that's probably why theirs is obviously a little smaller. This is again petitioner's property here. This is the deck itself, just to show you in a south and north direction what the encroachment looks like. Again, most of the deck is within the legal kind of area, and then the landing itself is what encroaches into the setback. This is now looking in a northerly direction. This is the landing itself. So we're talking about 4 feet of encroachment. So with that, I'll tell you the story. When I went out in December to the next door neighbor's property to evaluate that, and then as I came back to the office to do some due diligence, I wanted to see what the distance was on this deck. I pulled the plans and we discovered that it was approved by the city in the setback. So the property owner had done everything right. They got city authorization. They then went and got a building permit from St. Louis County. They had homeowners association approval of the deck as well. It was constructed correctly. They received an occupancy permit. So when we discovered it, I emailed the homeowner only to find out that they had sold the property the day before. So Mr. Vadanam, this is not how we normally like to welcome people to Wildwood, that the first day, and literally in less than 24 hours of owning the house, he got an email from me that this deck was not in compliance. So I just wanted to explain the history of it all. I hope he's at least had a chance to move in at this point. So this is the plans on the property, and the orange portion, the deck is shown in blue, the home in purple. The orange portion of the property or on this plot is what is encroaching. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Arnett. Are there any questions for the Department of Planning at this time? All right, can the petitioner please come forward or unmute?
Hello.
Hi, can you please state your name and your address in your relation to the property and then be sworn in by the court reporter?
My name is Praveen Vadanam, and the address is 119 Sweet Cherry Way, Missouri Wildwood 63040.
All right, and can you be sworn in by the court reporter, please?
Yep, I sworn in by court of amendment.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Okay, can you go a little bit slowly, please?
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Can you please state can you please explain the nature of your request and the hardship or practical difficulty necessitating the variance?
Yeah, I think as I said, Kathy said, I got an email just one day after I bought this property, and then she explained me what's the problem. So I think looks like the problem is like it's supposed to be 20-foot setback for the sun deck, but it was now approved with 16 feet, I think.
All right. Are there any questions from any board members? Okay. Are there any speakers in the audience who want to speak in favor of or opposition to the request?
I don't see any hand raised. I believe that there is a neighbor in the meeting, but they're not indicating that they wish to speak. So,
okay.
Thank you.
At this time, I'll offer the opportunity to hear an oral presentation of the department's report. Seeing no requests for that, does the Department of Planning have any final comments?
We do, Madam Chair and members of the board. We, again, are supportive of this variance being approved as requested, and we sincerely apologize to the welcome that we offered the petitioner on his move into the city.
Thank you, Ms. Arnett. Do any board members have any final comments? All right, at this time, I'm going to close the proceeding for a vote and ask for a motion to approve, deny, or approve with conditions.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the variance as requested.
Thank you, Mr. Sprunger. We have a motion to approve the variance as requested by Mr. Sprunger. Do we have a second?
I'd like to second that, please.
And we have a second from Mr. Frank. Mr. Morris, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Sprunger, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Frank, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Coleman, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I also vote yes. Your variance request has been approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Pardon me.
Thanks.
And Madam Chair, my apologies to the board. We try not to make mistakes, but they occasionally happen. So sorry you had to deal with this. To the property owner, again, as Kathy mentioned, our apologies.
And welcome.
No, you guys are so helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a
The
good
best
night.
part is we made a mistake, but now it's fixed. I'll mail you your paperwork.
There you go.
Okay, thank
Those
you.
are the best kind of mistakes.
Right? Fixable ones. I love it.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Can the next petition be read into the record?
Yes, ma'am. The third and final case tonight relating to the Board of Adjustment is BA 3-21, Eric and Jamie Bradley, 18315 Ridgecrest Acres Drive, Wildwood, Missouri, 63069. Request an exception to the minimum yard requirements general for the purpose of constructing a new detached garage addition onto a single-family dwelling, circa 2018, upon the property located at 18315 Ridgecrest Acres Drive, St. Louis County locator number 27X510057, which would thereby authorize a front yard setback distance of 20 feet in lieu of the 50-foot standard as measured from the edge of the private roadway easement of Ridgecrest Acres Drive. This request is contrary to the requirements of Chapter 415.090 NU Non-Urban Resident District Regulations of the City of Wildwood's zoning ordinance. This particular property is located in Ward 6. Madam Chair, before we begin the proceedings relating to this matter, the Department of Planning would respectfully request to enter into the record the following items. Chapter 400, Article 2 of the City of Wildwood Municipal Code, the Board of Adjustment. Chapter 415 of the same City of Wildwood Municipal Code, the zoning ordinance. The file that has been developed and maintained by the City of Wildwood regarding this matter, and all contents contained therein, including the department's recommendation report. And then finally, any testimony, plats, maps, or other exhibits offered as evidence as part of tonight's hearing. And again, as with the previous two requests, the Department Planning, Ms. Arnett, has a slide presentation she can provide at this time. With your permission, Madam Chair.
Please and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. This particular request is located in the southwest area of the city. It is shown in the light blue, centrally located in the slide. It is off Allenton Road, west of Allenton Road, which it comes in east of Henkin and kind of south of Melrose. This main street here is Highway 109, and then this is the Franklin County line on the west. You can see Hidden Valley here to the east, generally a good, easy identifier on an aerial, and then surrounded by Greensfelder County Park. This is an aerial of the subject site itself. This one shows the property lines. I'll show another one that has the improvements on it, but St. Louis County's aerials aren't caught up yet with the construction out there. The property fronts onto Ridgecrest Acres Drive, a private street here. You can see it's generally mostly wooded in the back 2/3 with some cedar and other evergreens in the front, and then the cleared area, which is where the home has been placed. Google is more up to date than St. Louis County on their aerial photography, so this shows the improvements on the property itself. You can see the straight drive with the pool at the end of the driveway, which is referenced in the department's report. And this is the home. This area here you'll see in the photos in just a minute, but this is the main cleared area, and it's the flattest area on the property, but it is also the location of the septic field. This shows the topographic layout of the property. You can see it starts at a high point at the back of the property. It comes down approximately 40 feet in fall to an ephemeral drainage way, just past the halfway point, and then rises back up equal distance to the flat area where the building site was. And then it drops again another 20 or so feet down to the roadway, Ridgecrest Acres Drive. So this is that private roadway that's referenced. The driveway off to the left of the slide is the petitioner's driveway. And this is looking at Ridgecrest Acres Drive now to the northwest. In the other direction, the property on the right is the petitioner's drive. And then this is the neighbor's drive here off the left side of the slide. This is the subject. This is the petitioner's home and driveway. And then this is the parcel directly across the street that I showed the driveway just a minute ago. You can see that it sits at a much lower elevation. And you can get a better angle here. This is, again, Ridgecrest Acres Drive here on the left of the slide. Petitioner's property is off to the left. This is the neighbor's drive as it goes down to their home. This is taken from standing in the neighbor's drive across the street, looking at the general location of where the garage is proposed. There's a slight clearing here in the cedar tree line along the road, and it's generally in that, starting in that area. This is from that clearing looking the other direction to the southwest at the neighbor's house, or driveway, I'm sorry. This is taken just a little further back. You can see as you leave Ridgecrest Acres and come back towards, heading in an easterly, northeasterly direction towards the petitioner's home, the property does level off. It gets a little bit flatter in this area. And then this is just a little bit further back, again, looking at that neighbor's drive across the street. And this here on the left side of the slide in central is about where the detached garage is proposed. This is that flat area I referenced, which is the best buildable part on the site, except this is where the septic field is. So obviously nothing could be built over the septic field itself. And this is the plot plan of the petitioner's property. The pool is off the end of the driveway, so but not shown here. This proposed, this rectangle here is the proposed detached garage. It's about 30 by 40, and as you can see, the portion that is colored in orange is the part that does encroach into the front yard setback. Be happy to answer any questions, myself or Mr. Vunich.
Thank you, Ms. Arnett. Are there any questions from the board for Ms. Arnett right now? Seeing none, can the petitioner please state your name, address, and relation to the property?
My name's Jamie Bradley, and my address is 18315 Ridgecrest Acres Drive, Wildwood, Missouri 63069, and I am a co-owner with my husband.
All right. Can you please be sworn in by the court reporter?
Yes.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bradley. Can you please explain the nature of your request and the hardship or practical difficulty necessitating the variance as it relates to the character of your property?
So our request was for a variance in the setback requirement to do a detached garage. And as Ms. Arnett showed in the pictures of our property, a large portion of our property is our septic field, our leach field to our septic system. And so without having a variance to the setback requirement, we would not have the appropriate space to put a building in.
All right. Are there any questions from the board for the petitioner? Mr. Springer?
Yeah, so have you considered other alternative locations for a building that maybe would be, go ahead.
Sure. I mean, obviously, yes, this, is not our first, choice to go through this process, but we, as you could see from the plot plan, our land goes mostly back behind us. Our actual road frontage is not extensive. And so really there is no other alternative area where we would be able to put this.
Are there any other questions for Ms. Bradley? All right.
Excuse me. I was just wondering, we're thinking that we might want to request a continuance just based on the recommendation that was provided by the planning department. Obviously, we don't agree with that recommendation. And so we were wondering if we could take a continuance so that we could consult legal counsel regarding, how we should move forward from here, given the recommendation.
Can they do that? They can do that at this point, right?
Yes, ma'am. They can request a postponement up till the vote.
Okay. If you'd like to request a postponement, you can do that.
We would like to do that, please.
Okay. So it will be postponed to the next meeting. Is that right, Director Bunich?
Yes, if that's enough time for the petitioners to consult with legal counsel. And the department also may have a couple of suggestions that might make the variance lesser in distance, or maybe a variance to a different setback. So if the petitioners are willing, there are a couple of options I think that we might be able to offer that would change the recommendation of the department.
We would definitely be open to that.
So Madam Chair, we just need a motion and second to postpone to the next meeting, which I believe is February
18th.
And if that's enough time for the petitioners, and that can be done by a voice vote.
All right. Do we have a motion to postpone the variance request until February 18th?
I'll make the motion to.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. We have a motion for Mr. Morris to postpone this variance request until February 18th. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Springer. We have a second from Mr. Springer. Mr. Morris, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Springer, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Coleman, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Frank, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I also vote yes to postpone your request until the next meeting, February 18th.
Thank you.
Ms. Bradley, you can just email me and we'll set up a time. We can just Zoom or something.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thanks, you too.
Madam Chair, that's the last item on tonight's agenda. We do want to extend our appreciation to all of you for attending, as well as Sam Beffa, our city attorney, and Courtney Tallman, our court reporter. And Kathy and I'd like to wish you a very happy new year, a little belatedly, but it's never out of order.
We're almost finished with January already. It's crazy.
Fine, Bob.
It really is. All right. Well, this meeting is adjourned.